Okay. So I always start out with like my 90 degrees, but I mean, you can just go one at a time if you want. So let's say you start out with just your axis. I'm talking about these angles here. Okay, so this would be 0 degrees or 0 pi, which is just 0. It's also 2 pi or 360 degrees. And then my point, if I'm talking about a unit circle, this point, the x would be 1 and my y is 0. Okay. 90 degrees is the same thing as pi over 2. And this point would be 0, 1. Okay, then we're going to move on to 180 degrees or pi. And that point is negative 1, 0. And then here we have 270 degrees, which is the same thing as 3 pi over 2. And this point would be 0, negative 1. And I'll put a big version up here after I'm done filling it out. So if you can't really see it, I'll put up a big one here in a second. You don't have to do all of this for your quiz tomorrow, but this will help for sure. All right, the next ones that I like to do are the 45-degree angles, so the ones in the middle. Okay, so this first angle would be 45 degrees, or pi over 4. Okay, look back at your chart. The cosine of 45 degrees was the square root of 2 over 2. So that's going to be our x. Because remember, this is a unit circle. So cosine is x over r. And r is 1. We talked about that yesterday too. So this x is going to be your cosine. The y is going to be your sine. Square root of 2 over 2. Okay, the next one is going to be, let's see, 90 plus 45 degrees would be 135. 135 degrees, let's see, so this would be 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. So 3 pi over 4. Okay, the point is still going to be square root of 2 over 2 and square root of 2 over 2. But the thing you have to think about is we're in the second quadrant, right? So my x value isn't going to be positive. My x value for this quadrant is going to be negative square root of 2 over 2. And my y value is going to be positive square root of 2 over 2. Okay, so at this point on the circle, that point is negative square root of 2 and positive square root of 2. Okay, the next one, 180 degrees plus 45 degrees would be 225. If we're talking about radians, we have 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, 5/4 pi. Okay, this point would be my x is going to be negative and my y is going to be negative. It's my points down here. All right, and then the last 45-degree angle would be 315 degrees. So you have 5/4, 6/4, 7/4 pi. And this point would be, my x would be positive because I'm on the right side. Square root of 2 over 2. And my y is negative because my point is down here. Okay, so that's all of my 45-degree angles. I'm actually, well, no, I won't erase it. That way if someone's behind, they can catch right up. All right, for the other angles, we're talking about every 30 degrees. This would be 30, 60 degrees, 90, 120, 150, 180, 210, 240. I'm just adding 30 degrees every time. Okay, so if it helps for you to do all of the degree measures first, and then do all your radians, and then do all your points, you can do that. So if we talk about radians, 30 degrees would be pi over 6. So it'd be 1/6. 2/6 would reduce to pi over 3. 3/6, 4/6 would reduce to 2/3 pi. So I'm doing all of my lines except for the middle. Don't use the 45-degree angle because that's not going by 30s. We need to go by the same amount every time. Okay, so we have 4 pi over 6, 5 pi over 6, 6 pi over 6, 7 pi over 6. 8 pi over 6 will reduce to 4/3. 9 pi over 6, 10 pi over 6 will reduce to 5 pi over 3. And 10 pi over 6 and then 11 pi over 6. Okay, so for my points, look at your table from yesterday that we filled in. My x, or my cosine for 30 degrees is the square root of 3 over 2. My sine is 1/2. You don't have to memorize all this. This isn't going to be on your quiz. But I do want to show you kind of where all this has come to. This is where we've been headed to this whole time. 60 degrees was 1/2 and square root of 3 over 2 for sine. Okay, so my next angle is, you have to think about your reference angles. That's why we talked about it. The next angle is going to be the same as your 60 because my reference angle from this side to my x-axis would be 60 degrees. So I'm going to use the same point as the 60 degrees. But my x is going to be negative and my y is going to be positive because I'm in that second quadrant. This 150 degrees, my reference angle is 30. Okay, so I'm going to use the same point as my 30-degree angle, except my x is going to be negative. Okay, the next one, my reference angle is 30 degrees. Okay, so my 30-degree point is square root of 3 over 2 and 1/2. For this point, they're both going to be negative because I'm in quadrant 3. Okay, so then I'm going to have negative 1/2 and negative square root of 3 over 2. For 300 degrees, I'm going to have my x be positive 1/2 and my y is going to be negative because this point is down here. Okay, and then the last one, my x is positive, so square root of 3 over 2, and my y is negative. Negative 1 over 2. Okay, so let me put up a nicer version of this so you can really see the angles. But like I said, this isn't on your quiz. It's just something we need to go over, and we'll definitely use later. But this is where we've been headed to the past 2 weeks. All right, if y'all have any questions, just email me, okay?